one of the things that was really getting my heart racing last night was realizing what we're being given versus what my heart and brain and body was expecting.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is Logan didn't have any kind of farewell speech.
This was not an episode of Parenthood.
He did not say the thing that needed to be said or the thing that didn't need to be said. He was an asshole, and he got on a plane, and he didn't get off of it.
And the last thing he said to all his kids was, "You're not serious people."
Yes.
He did say, "I love you."
He did. He did have his last comment in the last episode, and it kind of felt like that in retrospect. But in terms of episodic television, it was not built to be the end of a major character. That also just historically happens at the end of an episode. It certainly does not happen off screen. And to play it that way was so radical, honestly, and reminding us that this show is not going to play by the rules that we expect on any level, including especially sentimentality. So what we receive instead was, chaos.
So what that made me think of is obviously the reason why Succession is probably a sensation to some extent is because the set dressing and the accoutrement of the show, like private jets and private choppers and I guess cruises to Staten Island and all the things,
just boats,
that comes with the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Like that's the fantasy part of the show. And I think that like if it didn't have that, it would be missing a huge thing. But the reason why I think the show resonates with people is because without knowing anything about Jesse Armstrong's life or any of the writers in the show, that moment was pulled from something.
I have the same thought.
And you don't get to hear a parent give you a final speech.
Yes.
You get a weird phone call and you spend the first 5 minutes being like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And
anybody who's ever had that phone call knows exactly how that feels. And 9 times out of 10, it's not your father would like you to come to the hospital so that he can give you a beautiful sepia-toned speech before he passes away, and you now have complete closure on all the things in your life. And also, like, you find out that the things that you thought were in your hands are in somebody else's hands because they just happen to be next to a parent or something like that. So it's stuff like that I think that makes this show kind of in a rare air that only belongs to like 10 or 11 other shows in the last decade or so, where it's like it's the same thing with Breaking Bad. Most of the people watching that show don't deal meth or understand chemistry or are ever going to meet anybody like Gus or Mike or Jesse. But the emotional beats of the show are real.
Yes, but I would say that this is even more significant because I completely had the same thought. I would say I took the same note, but we all know that's not true. Someone, if not more than one person in that writer's room,
talked about what it's like to get that phone call.
They've had this. Yeah. They've had this happen to them, and most of us will have this happen to us. And I know you and I, as like only children with aging parents, like every time my phone rings, this isn't a great part of me. I assume it's that phone call. Constantly, you live with that. You live with that shadow, and I think in terms of a show in its final season revealing what it is and what it was doing, this was so significant because you could believe you were watching a different show. You could believe that this was a series in which the dominoes were being set up over a period of 3+ years for a very dramatic boardroom coup, or something really satisfying as an audience member to see a plan come together, to have one of the kids pull off what Logan did, mostly off screen at the end of season 3, right? That's not true. That's not what this show is. I feel like everyone is waking up this morning to realizing that everything the show did for 3+ seasons was to set up the dominoes for the episode we watched last night, which was to take characters who exist in a carefully curated emotional and financial world where everything is controllable. I need this boat to go back to shore now. And Hugo's like, yeah, okay, I'll take care of that and also get you an Advil. There's always someone to fix the things for you, realizing that they too live in a world not only that has dive bars and karaoke bars, but has sudden, meaningless, catastrophic loss that you were not prepared for. And the first time, and there was more than one time in this episode that really got me, the first time that really, really, really threw me was when Kendall is on the phone with Frank. He wants to talk to the pilot. And
Yeah.
he's saying, and with Jess, and maybe it's with Jess before the Frank phone call. And
When
he's
he's
like,
like,
I want the world's best this and the world's
yeah,
best that.
and
waiting
Dr.
on the
fucking
tarmac.
Judith. Yeah.
And he's like, I think he says it to Frank, though. I think he says, I want everything done the best. I want everything done right.
Right.
And again, this is why you cast the show the way you cast it. Peter Friedman, an incredible veteran New York stage actor and performer who is just in the background of the show. But we remember that he kind of did have a better father-son relationship with Kendall than Logan did. And in that moment when he's just saying, I'm not going to lie to you, son, basically.
Yeah.
And he hears Kendall be like, do everything perfect, and we see Peter Friedman's face. They're not even sharing a screen. They're in different rooms. That was so futile. And it was so devastating. And it's a testament to the writing and the construction of this show that Kendall, who is a punching bag and a clown and an asshole, is also capable of demonstrating this, of generating this empathy. Because this is something that's going to happen to everybody. And nobody's prepared. Nobody's rich enough to inoculate themselves from something like this.
So in the after show that they do, like they have like a making of episode after Succession.
Oh, who hosts that? did we not get the interesting?
They were talking about how they essentially shot the sort of first 30 minutes of this episode with the kids, the siblings, as more or less one take, like a long one take, even though it was cut, obviously going back and forth between the play. And that it was essentially as like a one-act play that went on for 30 minutes in my life. It was like switching out reels because they shoot on film because it's Succession. It's the best. But that there's obviously inherent in that production style or in that way of doing it. It's like you're sustaining.
They shoot on film. I'm sorry. I just need to take a second. Go on. Yeah, it's crazy.
But by doing that kind of production style, you're able to sustain a certain mood and it feels like chaos. The thing I thought was amazing about this episode, among other things, was there's the emotional and dramatic chaos of what's happening, and then exactly what you're saying about Frank is that Armstrong never loses track of where he is in the pitch count or where he is in the count against the batter, where he's like, Frank's going to be talking to Kendall. Jerry will be in this room, and then Roman's going to walk in and look for comfort from his lover mother, and she will deny him, right? Like, the only person at the end of this episode who has anything vaguely approaching a TV moment is Connor, who has actual emotional candor with this person that he has largely had a transactional relationship with, like the little things that he makes sure run through the episode or run through the series or call back or feel emotionally consistent or dramatically consistent. And then even just like the kind of gestures he makes to, it's not, even if it's going to feel fucked up because he's in the air and the kids are on the, it's like everybody's floating. Logan is stuck in this limbo in the air and the kids are all stuck at sea. I mean, it's mythological the way he pulls this off.